The next question is from CPro.com poster Brian, and he's wondering if it's a necessity for power conditioning and voltage stabilization in homes that are getting 100% of their power from solar panels.
Okay, well, let's take solar. And first of all, I was in the solar energy business, so I know quite a bit about photovoltaics and solar panels with water and generating power. Nobody's 100%. Okay, so if you're 100%, you're going to be left in the dark at some point. It's hard to be 100%. You're charging batteries, which is what I think this reader is alluding to. But even with solar, you still have a connection to the power grid. Okay, and you have all the things that are susceptible to power grids that would affect solar, because you're not completely disconnected. And the other thing is that a lot of people who are doing solar energy want to sell the power back to the electrical companies. So there again, you're connected to the grid again. So you're not protected from surges that come from the power grid that come up from the line. If somebody blows a transformer or a breaker, it'll still come right back up and zap your system.
Okay. Our next question comes from Fred Harding from Distributor Capital Sales. He asks, given the speed at which the market is evolving, can you offer advice on future-proofing a pre-wire so that audio and video components 10 years from now will have the necessary connections to operate?
Well, 10 years is a long time, and it gets shorter and shorter, the longevity of a connection. So if you remember the RF connector had really the longest lifetime of 10 plus years, maybe 20 years, and then came S-video, and then came component video, and now it's HDMI, and now there's other people fighting for even higher bandwidth. But I don't think you can protect for 10 years. Okay, so that would be, I think, a little short-sighted, because components will always demand higher and higher data rates. They'll today demand bilateral asynchronous communication, so you can talk back and forth. Gamers, for example. So as interactivity and as the world becomes more, an internet-savvy world where there's almost no components, it's all through the cloud, that those connections will probably change as video, which is the main driver of higher bandwidth, is going to dictate. Okay, so I think 10 years is hard. But if it's HDMI, we have our cable for life guarantee, so if you sign up for that one, we'll replace the cable.
Okay. Our last question comes from CPro.com poster Dave Stevens, and he says, explain why you market your M-Series M2000 hyperspeed cables for HDMI. He says, based on specs that don't exist and can't be proven because no device has been invented to transfer that amount of information. Meanwhile, he says, the cables do not meet the HDMI 1.3a standard when tested. So he wants you to comment on that.
Well, I mean, if you look at 480i DVD players, you could say, there will never be a high-def DVD player. Okay, and when it was, and if you remember, in those days, Faruja, were doing line doubling. Okay, so when from 480i to 480p, you had to buy a line doubler to get to 480p, and then get from 480p to 720p, you'd buy an outboard, line doubler to be able to get that. So the technology is constantly changing. So in order to be able to keep up with that technology, you have to future-proof. Because as an installer, you don't want to go back after your wire. Okay, so hyperspeed of which this gentleman speaks is 21 gigabits. There is nothing currently today that requires 21 gigabits. But if you do the math on 3D at 240 hertz at 60 frames a second, of which is barely minimal because everybody wants to go at 120, but let's say it's 60. And if you were to do that with a 4K by 2K picture, which is not here today, but they're rendering movies in it, You know, it might not be Blu-ray, it might be Green Ray, you know, but someday those movies are going to be available to the consumer because I want a screen as big as my wall. The technology is here to be able to do it. We just have to standardize on the delivery systems. And when that is standardized, would you need that kind of a cable with that kind of data rate? It would exceed 21 gigabits. So you don't have to buy the hyperspeed. We're saying for consumers who run big Runco projectors, run them in the wall, don't ever have to worry about it when I hook up my 3D panel, my 3D projector, and I'm going 1080p at 14-bit color. You're at 21 gigabits, just like that. So do you ever have to worry about that cable? Well, that's what this product is for. It's very expensive. We don't sell a lot of it, okay, but for those who want the absolute best, at least we make it. So is it justifiable? I think it is, based on what you might pay for a $50,000 Runco projector or a $100,000 home theater system, and you've got $1,000 for a cable. You get that little balance that may say, you know what, I don't think I'll skip on that cable. I think I'll buy that $1,000 cable as opposed to a $300 cable.
Okay, Noel Lee, head Monster, founder of Monster Cable, thank you for taking the time to answer some questions from CE Pro readers and CEPro.com readers. Thank you for joining us.
Good, thank you very much. Anytime.